Bryson, can you hear us now?
Lima Charlie, Mr. Mayor.
Sorry about that. All right, going back. So, we wish the best for Jessica and her family. Bellevue Works, again, we apologize for the distribution of an email that went out and now is being used by some system that is not part of the city. We're working with who we can to correct that, but they continue to misrepresent and miscommunicate what the city is actually doing. We apologize that your emails got used in this way, but we'll work on that. We are still working on the city website. We should be pretty close to getting it to go live, finishing up on a few final details, but I hope to have it live here the next month. Bulk water usage, please remember that bulk water is by permit only. You have to come to City Hall and get a 30-day permit for bulk water usage. No usage to go to a fire hydrant is authorized without having a permit. We are going to be looking at a new ordinance and developing two bulk water distribution sites, one up by the firehouse and one down by the southern lift station, and make it easier, and we can account for that water and get rid of people hooking up directly to fire hydrants. Recycle bins are gone. We are looking at a franchise opportunity that they may come back, but unfortunately, due to the misuse by a few, we've lost the opportunity to have recycle bins in the city. Which is still an option. You can take it up there on your own, but we just had compliance issues, and those costing the city twice as much to have dumpsters than it was to have recycle bins. Moving forward, after public comment, we'll have a note of mayor updates, much like this, so I don't have to use the public comment period, but just give a highlight of what's going on, what we're doing as a city and a staff to keep more transparent and talk about some of the side issues that are going on that me and council members are working on that don't get brought up in regular council meetings. Final comment, Slaughterhouse Canyon. There is a parking area. It's set up. Please try to park in that parking area if you're using for walking, hiking, and keep open, the roadways open, and no longer block lanes of traffic. Impedes emergency personnel, impedes traffic, even though there's not a ton of traffic that gets up in there, it still becomes a issue. So we hope to improve it with some shaded areas, a little bit more facilities, potentially watering opportunities for dog walkers and stuff, but that'll be a continued use for our Slaughterhouse Park area. That being said, a public comment is open. If there's anything.
One thing, how the park committee, the park, when the group of people, did it go good?
The cleanup or
Picnic?
no?
That
Picnic thing?
Yeah.
I wasn't there, so I can't speak to it.
No, there was a good turnout. We had a representative from Hispanic. What's her name? The person that runs Hispanic council for the governor. She showed up, and it was well attended. Again, it was a private event, but it was well attended for the first one. The thrift store and the advocates, they showed up, and with food, there was quite a few donors, but overall, some good music, well attended for their first social. We continue to appreciate that the community wants to get together, and we appreciate that they provided an event for them, and we'll continue to work. Parks Committee, the actual Bellevue Parks Committee, is looking for a couple new members. So if anybody is interested, we do have some openings on the Parks Committee, not the Bellevue Community Coalition or whatever they're calling them. So that's a private entity on its own.
Yeah.
Any other comments? Seeing none here and no hands raised, at this time I'll go ahead and close public comment. Consent agenda, items A and B, we got common council meeting minutes and claims. Any discussion or questions on the consent agenda?
Don't have any. I would move to approve the consent agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
That was a roll call.
You're standing there.
A roll call.
Mayor, I'm sorry, member Carrero. sorry.
Yeah.
Member Shea,
Yes.
member Leahy,
Yes.
member Mahoney.
Yep.
President Dordine,
Yes.
and member.
All right, I'd say tonight's gonna be a short meeting, but I'd be lying. No new business, and we'll move on to the budget workshop. Considering discussion regarding the preliminary budget for fiscal year 2025.
So I tried to simplify a little bit for you tonight. If you look at your long sheet, that is the summary for general fund, and on the bottom, water and sewer. We are gonna review water and sewer tonight. You got those?
Okay.
As these worksheets are right now, this is zero. It's balanced. But I did a lot of juggling. I did a lot of finagling. I couldn't even tell you exactly everything I did, so we can go through it. But then, like, just before the meeting, I found an invoice that I need to find $6,000 for Resort Cities Coalition for next year. That's not in here. I didn't realize that that was coming, so I don't know if there's anything like that. Please tell me, because I have the budget down to pretty bare bones when it comes to general fund. And you have a puzzled look on your face.
I was surprised that $6,000 seemed a little high for what we're. paying.
$500 a month,
Okay.
starting November for the next year. Right now, it's $175 for us,
Okay.
but their last statement said that we're going to $500 a month.
What?
What do you get for that? What is it? I saw that email. I
Yeah,
want to look at that again,
I
or
had-
maybe and talk to the group.
I still think that's high because we are supposed to be at it at a fairly substantial reduction.
Yeah,
Um,
Okay.
Yeah.
I
let's
can-
look into that.
Let me,
Okay, good, because I don't have it in here.
Okay.
No, that's not right.
well,
Historically, we paid 175 a year, close to it.
they are doing more things and they have gotten a lobbyist and there is some additional funds and we have agreed to meet some of that, but if you don't know what the Resort Cities Coalition is, it's all cities that are identified as a resort community have bought in and they provide advocacy and they work on bills that promote retaining resort city status, allow that, because there's a lot of legislatures that want to get away with it because of the lot taxes and various things. And so they keep us apprised of what's going on, any new legislation that's going forward that is promoted through the cities or that would support the resort cities. They advocate for that. But I will double check on that price.
Okay,
'Cause I don't
thank
think
you.
I don't think it's correct.
Okay. So when you look at the summary here, basically, general fund is at 2.468. You'll see that at the bottom left on revenue, and then on total expense, they have to match for the year. When you go to the right on the over/under expenses fiscal year 24 budget comparison, you look at that over/under column, 4 of our departments are actually less than last year's budget. Okay, in comparison, just so you know, put it in perspective, all those with parentheses. I apologize, yours didn't print in red.
Mm.
I meant to, but didn't happen. So the parens mean that those came in less. Down at the bottom, I just put a little note because on water and sewer, we do have the $3.3 million grant that is reflected in the water budget.
Okay.
So I wanted to do figuring so you wouldn't have to try to do it or get a calculator for water without the grant for comparison in terms of you'll see water revenue at 3.9 million. That's because of the $3.3 million grant. Okay, and the same thing with expenses. So really, when you look at the whole budget as a draft, down at the very bottom, they're under the right side where it says 4.794310. That's what it is without the 3.3. And last year we were 5.187671. So roughly down 7.58% as a whole. As a whole. Any questions on that?
No, I do just want to clarify one thing that, last couple of years, we've been working off of extra ARPA funds. Additional monies have been coming in that we do not have this year. We're doing our best not to cut resources. We're trying to keep the resources and what the city provides at the level that it currently is, but meet our revenue. So I'm not trying to cut the marshal, fire department, the street feet out from underneath them, but we're working within our means. We're just with a smaller budget because we don't have the funds that we've had in the last few years. And we don't have the carryover that we've had for the last few years.
We're also functioning on better numbers
But
this year.
we're using actual
We're
numbers.
using actual numbers in the budgeting.
And so it's just, we're not,
Yeah,
I think with carryover, we've had this extra money that we keep on moving around. But right now, we're working with our actual revenue, developing an actual budget instead of hopes and dreams, and using stuff and other resources that we don't have coming in on an annual basis. So while it may look like we're cutting stuff, we're getting to a point where we're actually operating within our means, and we can move forward in the next years as we find additional revenue.
thank you for saying that. I appreciate that. I get so wrapped up in the numbers that, yes. Okay, so attached to this, you're gonna find payroll sheets, and I only attach the payroll sheets that are within this budget draft. So payroll has gone to flat. There's no COLA, there's no fifth marshal. There is a development, a community development director in there. But other than that, everything else it's flat. So the one real unknown so far is health insurance, and I've got our guy working on it. I have reflected a 5% increase, although last year we had a decrease, which was really unusual. So that's why I put in an increase this year. So hopefully that's not gonna throw us way out of whack, because that's a pretty big number across the board total wise. It's a good $160,000 in the whole scheme of things. So any questions about payroll?
I've got two. I had a discussion with member Shea. We had an interview with a community director. Interview went very well. We just couldn't come to an agreement on price. A qualified person, I think, would have fit the city well. But we had our top limit, he had his bottom limit, we couldn't come together. We look at the number of hours that are needed, and in conjunction with what Great West is providing us, we are considering, I would consider cutting the community development director position to a part-time position. And potentially we can find a retired person in the community that might be able to fulfill those needs, or somebody that has the background but just doesn't want to do full-time work. And along with that, I would take those funds, transfer them to the Marshal's department. They did not receive raises last year. I would like to do the proposal at minimum. The marshal has two positions he would like to see raised. I would like to see it across the board for the marshals, and also for the library. Kristen did not get a raise in August that the other staff.
No,
members-
she did.
Did she?
Mhm.
Okay, but I'd still like to consider her for at least a COLA.
Well, I will throw in my 2 cents worth on the part-time for community development. we've gone this long with no one, except for some contract labor, and I think it's doable at 20 hours a week.
Talking about you?
Hmm?
Talking about you?
Well, I worked a few extra hours, I know that.
Okay.
Marshall?
Whatever number you guys decide for my department, I would like that as a merit raise, not just a 5% across the board. That way I can associate that with the appropriate person and the appropriate number. If that's okay with me.
Gives us flexibility, but we'll just say 5%, just so we have a number to work with right now.
I will rework that for next time around. Anything else on payroll? I realize I missed water sewer payroll, but we'll talk about that when we get to water sewer. Okay,
I just noticed that admin, you just have an asterisk that it doesn't include common council, but is common council included
yes,
in this final number here?
Yes.
Okay,
yes. It's just not in that.
that's fine. I just want to make sure it's
Yeah.
accounted for. Thank you.
So if you'll go to your actual budget worksheets. If you want to just kind of peruse through the numbers, I mean, like I said, I went through and rearrange numbers as much as I could in everything to try to get this down to balancing in between. I'm not sure in terms of admin's budget is down from last year, although it is absorbing, actually, overall, it's up and operating because it's absorbing some of the other costs that we, like IT support and stuff that we're not distributing through the different departments as a whole, so. Buildings and grounds obviously went up because we're allocating payroll, more appropriate payroll to buildings and grounds, and more appropriate utilities in terms of costs and all of that, based on actual numbers. P and Z is gonna change because I'm gonna change those numbers there, so that payroll will change there. Did put some significant income there in being a little more aggressive in the CD P and Z budget for building permits, and we've had a few more payments come in. So you can see our numbers got better as of June 30th compared to what they were last time. So there are a few big projects looming out there for the next fiscal year that should help to make those numbers work.
But that Malone application has not come in, has it?
Malone is in here. Well, actually, no. Malone is going to be in here this year.
Right.
Yeah, we
In
had
this
word,
fiscal year, not in 25.
right. We had word that they have FedEx to check. Today, Amy told me.
Okay,
So that will come in here this year.
that'll be a good number.
Yeah,
And same. with
although there's
Manfred.
a discrepancy, I should tell you and Amy is going to attempt to recoup the discrepancy. They based it on Ashley's original quotation, and that was incorrectly figured. It was $2,000 short for DIF funds. So she received an email on it, and I asked her to email him back and explain that there was there was some incorrectness there and see how they responded. It can't happen if we don't ask, so,
I mean,
yeah,
we want to honor in good faith, but
yeah,
if we're ahead of the game right now, we don't have to go back like we've done with some of the fees on some of the developers.
yeah,
It's what we know, what that person did at that time, miscalculation. So I don't hold it on any one person.
Yeah.
We asked for it. We'll continue to move forward with this. We want to have good partnerships with them. So
yeah. Well, Amy had been in communication with them. And I don't know what exactly transpired, but then they said, well, okay, we've sent it,
I mean,
so,
the overall amount in the grand scheme of things,
yeah.
we'll work with them and continue to build that relationship and try to get the difference. So.
Yeah,
And then did we also get the Maverick?
that is one that I budgeted for next year, hoping it might fall into next year. Cause I think that the Carl Malone's gonna make our numbers good here. So the Maverick, the Broadford, and the Martin Lane, those are the three big ones that I'm aware of. Kind of hanging out there for, I don't know how quickly any of those might, because they're kind of dependent on the text amendment and all that. So that's why I bumped up some of these numbers for next year.
Okay.
Any thoughts?
While we're on this topic, I want to also make it clear that I believe that this council and P and Z are in agreement that development is going to happen in Bellevue. We have really limited resources. I can raise development impact fees to slow it down and stop it as much as I want, but then that's also going to raise legal concerns. If Bellevue does not get into the conversations and work with developers, then they will work with the county and we will get what's left over. So, you know, as people say, we want to keep Bellevue as much Bellevue as we can. We want to take ownership of it, keep the community values that we have, keep the look that we have, but we have to develop smartly and work with them instead of just ignoring it and letting them tell us how we're going to do it. You know, there's been a lot of communication I've received the last couple of days that some are for development, some are not. We have, people want to ignore it. We do have a housing problem throughout the valley. And I've said this before, I don't think that Bellevue should be the crutch that the whole county weighs on, that we take care of it, but we can do our fair share. We can work with the way that we can establish things that are currently in place. In our downtown core, mixed use is a thing right now. I mean, we do have work, businesses in downtown with apartments above them that people are living in. Mixed use is a thing. There are so many things that these text amendments are just making it cleaner, so we don't have to go through 4 different ordinances. It just streamlines the process so everybody can be on the same playing field and saying, yes, this is available for Bellevue. This is the expectations we are asking from developers, and this is the way we want to move forward. We still have to go through the design review process. P and Z still will have a say. Public comment will be taken on all these developments and everything coming in. So, you know, none of this is new. We've been talking about getting some of these things pushed through since 2019, if not before. So nothing's new here. We are just finally grabbing it by the reins and taking it and cleaning it up so everybody can be on the same footing as we move forward, and we can grow Bellevue the way we want it to grow, the way our community wants it to grow, and not being dictated by the developers and by the county.
And I will add to that, Mayor, that in my former role here at the city, I initiated this text amendment to do some different zoning on Main Street so that we could allow more diverse multifamily opportunities. And it was met well. And, you know, it's wanting to be responsive to the crisis that we have. I think I have the luxury of all the years that I was in planning of working and living in the same community. And there are a lot of people that want to have that luxury. You know, you talk about, you know, the bad traffic now and all of that. How many car trips come through that intersection at Highway 21 twice a day, any given day? It's staggering what that number is. I don't know off the top of my head,
That's 5,000 cars,
The
Yeah.
50,000 cars?
5,000
at least,
at least.
yeah. And
Well,
so,
That's from
I-
deep south.
I,
We're talking about
crossing 75, going north to Highway 20, I would say 50,000 cars a day.
At least.
Wow.
and so, you know, all the traffic that, you know, author of a newsletter talks about, you know, wanting to preserve, you know, our open space and, you know, the pollution. Well, when you've got that many cars on the road, they're using resources. They're causing pollution. I mean, it's, you know, something has to be done. And that's, you know, why I initiated this, because I wanted Bellevue to be responsive to this housing issue. I do agree with the mayor, we don't have to solve the problem for the entire valley, but we can do better. And hopefully we will. I'll stop now.
I'm sorry for that, Cam, too.
Any comments on the P and Z budget then? Anything there?
I have one question, how much is a sign permit?
Did I not put it on here?
Just
I
like
think they're
per
$100.
permit?
I think it's
$100.
$100.
I believe almost all of our permits are
$100. I mean, just driving through town, there's so many new signs.
But like we talked about, it's a one-time permit.
Yes,
Oh,
but there's so many new signs in like the last 3 months, 6 months.
Have you been approving those, Michelle?
Oh, I don't, well, Amy does.
Oh, Amy has now,
See.
yeah.
The time I was working on it, I maybe did 3 or 4. And it was one guy, the pizza place on the corner, I don't know, corner, they replaced their sign. I reviewed that one and he was replacing exactly the same sign, just doing something different. There was a lady that started up a business that's like they do woodworking or something, and they did a really nice hand wood sign. And they came within their parameters, even though it says they got extra if they use something like that, they didn't. Maybe 3 or 4, those are the 2 that really, oh, and there was one the same day she came in, that was a pizza guy. So 3 or 4, not very many.
I mean, I can think of 6 off the top of my head, yeah, those weren't mentioned. It'd be nice to, I don't know how we
Yeah.
can enforce that or just, you
Um,
know,
Well,
I can probably provide a list.
No.
Send it to Amy.
Yeah.
And so that she can check, or Michelle,
You can send it to me.
yeah. So that we can check and make sure that people are getting permits. A lot of people just
Yeah,
don't
I mean,
know.
that's just one,
Just,
And we did
all the
find
signs
out
in
that
the. Bellevue
there was a
thing.
couple of
Lunch
signs
breaks.
that were approved previously.
Yes.
They paid for it, but were never given the permit, but
We don't issue a physical permit.
luckily they were receiving emails showing,
So they were approved before and just now did the signs.
yes.
much like today, the reason I brought up bulk water, I saw a gentleman pull up to a hydrant right by my place. And I just went out there, I'm like, do you have a permit? He said, well, I've always done it this way. I'm like, do you have a permit? And he says, well, no. And I'm like, all right, go down to City Hall and get a permit, otherwise I can't allow you to hook up. And he was nice enough about it, he pulled up his hose, he went down and they got a permit approved today. It's $100, $150 for a month. You know, but after we get through this budget, we're gonna review all our fees, we're gonna review how we can enforce them better. Ensure that there's compliance, because I think like, Member Shea just said, people may not just know, and education could be a lot of it. And, you know, one of the things that was brought up with the community development director and his position is like, you know, if I'm here and I can enforce these fees and collect them, and that'll pay for my salary. And he's not wrong. I think we can find stuff there. But, let's lift this budget and then we'll worry about fees here in the next couple of months.
That guy does. I busted him
Yeah.
last
Yeah.
year. Half his hose and his bridge. And I'm not giving it back. I told him.
No, and the main thing is,
So there's that line.
specifically on the water, it comes down to two issues with me. I don't care as much as they're stealing our water, but the potential of cross contamination and putting something into our water because they don't have a proper backflow device. And then using our hydrants, if they don't know how to properly seal and close a hydrant, they can over tighten it and break it, and they're $50,000 each. So, it's community health, it's just taking care of our equipment. And while I am proposing to put 2 bulk water distribution points in the city, and so they don't have to deal with hydrants, they have a point they collect from that's both convenient north and south. And it'd be one on the east side and one on the west side of the highway. And there's could be grant money for that. I talked to Andrew Kimmel with Great West. He said that they put one in council, $95,000. But this thing is like RV ready and it's in a shed and it's winterized. I don't think anything that fancy. I think we're about 5,000 each at most. We should be able to knock them out and provide that service, have it metered, and know how much water they're actually using.
I didn't know that was a thing, so.
You think about it, it is water theft, and people that, and this is why we need to get onto our metered system, to let people pay for the water they're using. And those that are using access pay a different amount, and they pay for the water they're using. So we're covering the cost of treatment. And as we move forward to some of these developments, they have water rights, and we want to get them to use their water rights for pressurized irrigation at minimum. So we're not paying treated water to be put on lawns. So there's a huge cost component in all of it. Again, back to the budget.
Yeah, back to the budget. Fire, I just realized I must have printed a previous version. So his actual total expense is on your summary at 198,898. On here it's 206. And the discrepancy is under contingency. There was, I needed to try to balance, so I reduced that contingency by 7,000 to make this balance. Instead of touching your 40,000, I left your 40, but I reduced the 20 to 13, whatever, on that. So just so you know.
Over that last week, right?
Well, that was something that happened today as I was looking at numbers. So apparently I printed the wrong version for your packet. I apologize.
Can we go back to community development
We
for just
can.
1 second? On the 60,000 that you've got proposed for building permits for this next year, are you pretty confident about that number?
Yes, if those projects all come to fruition. And I'm guessing with what we're doing with our text amendment, that we're gonna draw more. That we should have more. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Mhm.
It's not gonna break my heart if we go over that number. That's for
Well,
sure.
it's sure not gonna break mine.
I know.
I went pretty aggressive on some of this stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, we need to get out there and hustle on some of this. so.
Yeah,
And, remember, we do have some contingency funds in here. And they go across all budgets, and we can have, if we have to, move funds around for department to department. Just because we don't approve COLA raises tonight or through this budget, as we get towards the middle of the year and we see where we're at and we do these merit raises instead of just straight up COLA, there is opportunities for staff to get raises this year still, if we can do it within our numbers. So remember, we do have contingency funds. And going away from just straight up COLA to merit raises, there's still opportunity for staff and for projects.
Okay, So back to fire. Any-
Sorry, I'm
any
sorry.
question? No, are we good on,
Maybe reduce
are we-
that one to 13, you said?
yeah, the 20 to 13. It was 7,000 and some odd. I don't remember exactly. I'll have to correct that. So fire, any comments? Chief, are you good with your fire?
No. As long as we don't have roundabouts. I just got here the west coast through Bend. And if anybody wants to go through roundabouts, drive through Bend. Or they're built too. Just to comment on
On the library, I did, put in there for her to try to get some more grants. I increased that to 10. So pretty much hers is pretty simple. It pretty much stayed, and a couple of things juggled around, but very minorly. And she looked at it earlier today. Marshals. So I'm gonna have to rework, obviously payroll on all this. But let's pretty much look at income, operating.
Yeah, I believe that we're getting really close to this magic number to get a fifth officer. Would that be right?
Yeah, forgot it.
We need 78,000 to add in.
I know, we're getting that close, but with what we're paying in overtime, I do want to get to that fifth officer. I'm not asking for it in this budget, but that's my intent moving forward, to reduce workload on our current staff and to get a person would be huge. And I think in the long run would balance out pretty well.
I tried.
No.
I tried to put it in here, but we need 78,000.
No,
I don't know where to get it.
we can only work with what we have,
Yeah.
so.
Any questions on Marshall? Anything?
Yeah, we can-
Okay. Moving on to streets. Streets revenue is hopefully improving as we go. We do need to pursue, I mean, we have increased the lot. So I don't know if that's an overreach there in terms of trying to double our lot. But we put it in at 100 grand, so. And also some grants in there. And Casey, have you reviewed all this? Do you have any comments? Any?
Just got to look at it while I'm sitting here, I'm sitting in the truck. all the time.
There are some staffing issues that I'm looking at with streets. I have a gentleman that is interested in coming on staff that would provide several years of service to us, and we can build it behind us as much as I appreciate what Casey's done. You know, Casey is looking for greener pastures eventually in the next couple of years. I think there's an opportunity to start developing water and sewer with a little bit of transition, bring this person on. But until I can get a water sewer supervisor, I really don't want to make that change. And so with this budget, it keeps things where they're at. You know, the lot increase would be huge for us. I think since we're still just looking mainly at the beds and not looking at food, wine, liquor increases, just sticking with hotels and that for our lot. What other cities are using is twice to three times what we're currently charging. So I think if we can increase, if we just double it, we're still well below what other people are charging for their lot on bedrooms. And we can meet that goal. And, but I am looking at the long-term health of our streets department and finding somebody that we can build around the next 10 years instead of the next 3. So.
You're down in your capital expenditures. 24 budget, 125,000 down there for construction improvement. 25.
I put 100 in street construction, Casey. And a lot of that 125 is to balance out. To balance out this year, the amendments we discussed. So I shifted it down there.
Is there a reason to put it in street construction versus construction and improvement to your market, or is one more of the universal category than the other? Because it seems like we didn't put any in street construction last year, so I'm just curious.
We
what
created a
category.
new account for street construction.
Okay.
So that we could have, we are holding some Strayhorn funds that are street construction. They're not in this.
Okay.
But if we can have monies that we can put toward, we might be able to do some stuff, some work.
I think we have construction improvement and parks and in building and grounds, right? And so this just identifies it specifically streets instead of just general construction.
It balances out the grants. If I bring in the grant, I gotta show it going out. So I either take it both out or put it in there somewhere.
Okay.
Would you rather have it under construction? It can move.
Yeah, I realize. So there was 100 and some in there from last year that wasn't allowed to be spent. It's moved to this year.
Is that the Strayhorn money or what's the 100 that did?
It was under,
The 125. See, there was 62 in there in fiscal year 23. And in 24, they put 125.
But in 23, we had 120 in street construction and nothing in 2024.
Yep.
And nothing's really getting used out of there.
Because $120,000 on street construction is like 3 potholes or
Doesn't go very
a
far.
quarter of a block of, what do you call it, a chip seal?
Sounds like a question on the table is if it should be, Casey, in construction and improvement or street construction, or if it matters, because
I don't know.
Shelley said,
I
okay.
don't know that it matters.
Okay.
It can
Because if it
move
balances
wherever
for
we
you,
need it.
Shelley, then it sounds like it's in the right spot.
I just put it in there.
Okay.
It can move wherever it's needed there. Moving on to water. Okay,
I'm curious how's it gonna go.
how's water gonna go?
Yeah.
I think it's okay. I've got it balanced at the moment, but I don't know what's.
I'm curious how we're gonna apply the grants and everybody get the big number. And I'm sure if that's gonna be this year or next year or year after.
Okay, I'll tell you what I've done.
Okay.
I have the 3.3 million grant
That's all that,
coming in,
that's all that.
and then it's going out in under capital,
Capital.
okay, under construction and improvement. It's going out there.
Okay.
So it balances. Okay. But we should probably back up and start kind of at the beginning of water and go through.
Okay.
So I did plug in the carryover of the cash balance from this last audit. We don't get much from administrative fees or application fees. There's our big grant, and that pretty much is that portion of income. Then we get into the actual water portion of our water user fees. We average roughly 38,000 a month. I did reflect a 4.99% increase on fee for both water and sewer. Plugged in at 5 new units for water meters, 5 new water caps. Our water on and off, we charge $20, doesn't even cover the staff time to take care of it. That's a fee that we really need to address. So I plugged a little bigger number in there for, I mean, we're at 1321 this year already. So I plugged 2,000 in for that for next year. So coming down with that grant, total of 3.917541 of income. Okay. In here, the payroll, there's 40% of a, and just for lack of a title, water, wastewater manager, and an apprentice. That's what's plugged into this payroll right now. Apprentice full-time, 40% of a water, wastewater manager. The water, wastewater manager, I apologize, I forgot those budget sheets, is at, what did we discuss, Chris? It was at,
90,000.
yeah,
So I do have 2 people that I'm reaching out to for this position. We're gonna post it as normal. But we need to take ownership again of our water and wastewater system. As much as I appreciate what our contractors are doing, keeping our system afloat. It gets down to, they were never meant to be our forever deal. They're our Band-Aid. And what they are charging for, daily services, we could be training people and paying them a good wage. It just comes down to finding them a housing. Do you think I have 2 good candidates? I'm gonna be speaking with one tomorrow afternoon. Hopefully I can get contact with the other one. Both would be perfect for the position. So again, taking ownership of our community, taking ownership of our utilities, getting a manager back in place, and that way we can start looking at getting apprentices hired and trained properly and doing it the way it needs to be done, instead of really training people up just to provide daily with new operators. Talking about the 3 million for the grant, 3.3 million for the grant. We are on a timeline where we are in the planning phases and engineering design review on all that. That'll probably take us through most of the summer. I don't see us breaking ground on the water project. Earliest would be spring, once the frost breaks here in 2025. And we'll be going through it in phases where we go through this 3.5 million. I have asked for the 4.9% raise in the rates just to keep on schedule. It is just the cost of doing business right now with petroleum costs. It puts everything in the water and wastewater industry, reflects petroleum cost, all the piping, all the fixtures, all the meters, the shipping cost, everything it all comes down to gas. We want to stay within that budget. We'll go with that timeline, but we're looking at, I would say, 3 to maybe 5-year timeline to have this whole thing completed, between the spring project completed, the water leak protection. I did get some good news from Congressman Simpson's office this week, or last week, that we are on earmarked. We are 3 cities in Idaho that have been earmarked, and we have a potential of $4 million that's gonna come back to that project that we won't have to take out on loans, which will reduce that overall $35 increase if we had gone through the whole loan process here 3 to 5 years. So we will see our rates increase steadily over the next 3 to 5 years. We may not hit that 35 or double our rate, what has been talked about going for the bond. We're still looking for additional funds, but this puts the project going full ahead, and we're going to be transparent what we're doing with it. We're going to be talking about where we are with the engineering process, the competitive bidding process to get the construction and the actual contractors that are doing the work in here. It'll be transparent. We'll have open dialogue, and we're gonna do the best we can to get that project completed in a timely fashion to a standard that meets the key requirements and provides the city a sustainable long-term water resource.
Okay, moving into then operating expenses for water.
Can I just pop back? Are we sure that we're only gonna have 5 new ones? Does that seem like a low number for these?
I think we've only had like 3 this year.
Okay, thank you.
And if you look at, say we have 1,100 connections.
Mhm.
I mean, I would love for it to be double that. But that came, I believe Shane
Okay,
gave me the
Yeah, just
5.
clarify.
I mean, if we maxed out, because we know, we've done our studies that we can only grow at 2.5%, just limited by the availability of labor.
Mhm.
The most we can look at would be 20 new connections a year, 20, 25 connections. Let's be realistic, it's not happening that fast.
Yeah.
So I think 5, 10 would be the max.
Okay.
Okay. So, operating expenses. We do have the new, ACS monthly fee that's reflected there in the computer IT. It's $160 a month, and that takes away a lot of the cell phone use that's going away. So, that's actually way better. I wasn't 100% sure if conjunctive management is gonna continue on the same course. Okay, so I reflected that pretty much as it has been. The contract labor, did cut that back because of hiring.
And if we don't hire, that hiring money can go back in there, so it's one or the other.
Yeah.
Plus side on the contracts right now, we're not having to pay per se and some benefits for them. Again, but the negative is they don't work for the city, they don't take ownership, and they're on call when we need them, because they got full-time jobs for other cities, so.
I'm not sure if anyone has any questions on any of these. I mean, I've tried to base them all on real numbers as much as.
Shane, you got something to add?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, I raised my hand before the mayor spoke and actually did a pretty good job. I just gonna jump in there about the rate increases. I just wanted to say something real quick, given some of the emails and calls I've had. That is going back to last year. We actually had a rate study done and paid for a rate study to be done. If we want to be on tap with actually covering our rates, which actually cover our operating expenses, that needs to happen in order for us to stay on course with the rate study that was actually done. That has nothing to do with any of the bonds or the projects or these kind of things. That was one of my big points. The other one is when we were talking about the number of connections and things like that. I did help come up with the five, because it is conservative, but I'd much rather use a conservative number than get ourselves in a hole. I'm not just using this year's numbers and things like that. If it's higher, great. If not, I'd rather not bank on something we don't know for sure. But no, my biggest comment was about that, the rate increase is the big one, because that's actually going to take action outside of this budget deal. The council will have to actually approve the rate increase. And I just want to point out that wasn't just a number that we put in there to make the budget work. That was actually a number that came from a rate study that we had done previously.
Thanks, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Jane, have you seen this latest version? I didn't email it, I apologize. Did you get it off the website?
I didn't. I'm looking at my council packet through my email. It doesn't have those latest numbers. But you and I have already talked, and I sent you my numbers. I think the only real big deal I had was to make sure that we have chlorine and chemical usage, which is an adage to the operational cost that wasn't there before. I think we got that figured in there.
Yeah.
I will not complain about how much you're paying on contractor labor, although yes, it is expensive, but yes.
Shane just brought up one thing on chlorine. We have transitioned both our wells. We put in liquid chlorine for disinfection, just purposes to mitigate any potential bacteria. We're trying to keep it at the lowest dosage possible, or recommended dosage, so we don't have high chlorine. But we did have some comments that when Chantel went online this last weekend, there were some fluxes and there was some higher taste and smell in the chlorine. We were well within safe limits, but we'll continue to balance those out. Yeah, it's not a bad thing, because we do need to flush the system now and again to get any biofilms, anything that's in the system. It does clean it out. So do apologize for any odor, taste differences. Once we get everything balanced and it gets to its normal levels, it should be barely noticeable.
I'll say yes, we kind of took a shot in the dark. It was a little high. We definitely sent off some chloroform samples while it was high. Not gonna lie to you. But I think that's under control now. And once again, that was something that the city actually we did not have records, and it's the first time one of our wells has even had chlorine. So I do apologize in public to anybody listening right now for any taste issues, but we're actually taking a huge step forward in DEQ compliance and these kind of things. So it's an exciting step, and it took us about 3 or 4 days and a weekend to control it. But I would ask that anybody that has any issues, please contact me or Bryson and let us know, because it is a uncharted territory that we're in.
So for capital, there's 50,000 plugged in for construction and improvement, the grant under construction and improvement. I separated it just to keep it clear. And then I'm not sure, maybe Shane, you can tell me, or Mayor, about this street construction line item. Is that for when somebody does a connection or something that they have to repair we have to repair the street, or what is that?
So that is actually if we do a repair, that is actually
Okay.
if the emergency repair or anything. Right now, as the ordinances and everything say it, if someone wants to make a connection to the system, say a new development or developing a property, they are responsible for the street repair and any work that happens. This is only to make up for what happens when the actual water wastewater department have to come out and make a repair themselves. And that has
So if we have
been,
a leak, we have to
Yes.
go in, take out a chunk of road to fix the leak.
Okay.
And it's on our side of it, and we have to go back and repair.
a good example was the Main Street leak where we had to dig up, we had to replace some curb, we had to replace some pavement, that kind of stuff. That's where that budget line item comes from.
So does that need to be more?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I mean, if there's a significant issue and we have a large problem, it's gonna be, we'll be talking in different ways, but, for now, just for daily maintenance, I think that's fine.
And then can you help me understand water meter? Because isn't that a cost that whoever is connecting would have to buy the water meters? So why do we have capital water meter expense?
So the water meter expense that the city is undertaking now is maintenance of some of these 14-year-old meters that have been in the ground that are not reading. If there's a new connection, we charge that through to the customer. I know when we look at what the actual budgets were from last year, those were mostly meters bought that were to replace old meters that either don't work with our reading system or were non-reading or that kind of thing. It was a line item that was left over from years ago when the city was buying a lot of meters. Right now, I will tell you in the 3/4 size, we have a whole pallet of them down there. So those are just for the larger commercial meters that are either not reading or need to be brought up to standard so that we can start metering and charging them on a usage basis that do not require someone to actually go read the meter. So that budget should come down significantly from where it was before. But yes, that is not an ongoing, that line item does not include any new developments, any of that. Those are all actual pass-through costs that the customer assumes.
Okay, so I have 10,000 in there. Does that sound reasonable?
Right now, to me, that actually sounds a little high. 10,000. Right now, your meters in anything over a 3/4 inch, you're gonna look at 1,000 to 1,200. So I'm guessing if you cut that number in about half, that would cover most of our either out of brand or meters that the city has already obligated themselves to provide.
Okay, thank you.
And just one last bit on that. I mean, I think it's ridiculous that we're talking about meters that have been on the ground for 15 years and we're still not on a meter rate. It is my full intent to, I think we've got everything in place now to start reading the meters, understanding the billing structure by late summer. September, October at the very latest, we'll be able to do that. We'll give people a few months to see this is what your bills look like so they can adjust their water usage. But April 1st, I want to go live with metered water rates next spring. And that is my intent.
That was gonna be a software.
Yeah, I mean, I've been doing worksheets on that in between this. So
We have everything in place now. We have the
as soon as
ability
this
to
is
read them.
done, I'm full bore on that.
So do our water user fees reflect meter rates being included? Or
No, they're based on current,
flat rate?
yeah, 4.99
So-
of, yeah.
Once we go to a meter, there's gonna be a flat rate that everybody will pay, and then over X amount of usage, you'll start seeing tiered levels. And so right now, the budget should reflect what's gonna be the flat rate.
And that's what it does.
And then in future,
So we
We
can see
can.
some increases.
yeah,
Yeah, I can't tell people that once they go to a metered rate, they're gonna see a reduction in their fees because we're gonna have that basic flat rate, but
Yeah.
if your neighbor is watering, like, I came down, I saw a garden and there's water flowing into the street. I mean, it's just a waste of water right now. That person is gonna be paying a higher rate, and if they wanna put that much water into the roads, so be it, they can pay for it. But, you know,
And
we
not,
wanna,
not to mention that the households are 15 people, 20 people.
I won't go there,
Yeah,
Sean, but
not- not exactly.
no, I mean, you know, when it's me and my wife in one house and I'm paying the
Yeah.
same rate as, you know, somebody with 10 people in their house, you know, there's a discrepancy there.
Yeah.
But
Big.
Long shower.
So bottom line, without the DEQ, actually, the water budget is less than last year. 617 compared to 677.
Good job.
Yeah. So unless I've missed something there, I need you guys to look at these.
And, you know, this is where that'll balance out. We can do additional projects beyond just our big ones. This will let us do any upgrades we need to do to other parts of the system. And we can use it as a base moving forward. Do we need to do 4.9% next year? Can we get away with 2.5? So I'd rather be a little high on it and covering all our costs. But, you know, we need to have that capital fund there so we can do emergency projects and different things.
Wastewater. There is a small amount of carryover reflected there, and I'm still not sure, and I can't find anything on the dedicated funds. Does anyone have any knowledge of those, that 377 dedicated funds?
I don't.
So look at me.
No, I know.
It's been in,
You've been here as long as I have, we should know.
No, I don't pay attention to
It's-
those. things.
yeah,
Hard enough time.
I just carried it forward.
Okay.
Yeah, let's find a reason for it.
I've been trying.
No.
Nobody knows.
It wasn't
I don't
in
know
there
where to
in
go.
23, right?
What's that?
Wasn't in there in 23.
No, I only have the actuals in there. Actually, it was in
Oh.
there. I don't have the budget for 23, but it was.
No, I
It
mean,
was in there.
Was it maybe for maintenance? Is that?
it could have been for 100 different things down there. I mean, there's been so much deferred maintenance. If we have that, that's gonna be crucial as we get it back online. And I will tell you that, we've completed the electrical estimates on what's gonna cost to redo all the wiring. We're looking at about $250,000. So $225,000 is what the estimate came in. Once we get the electrical done, we can test any other, the rest of our equipment and see where we're at. We are working with iCrimp, and that was the last estimate we need to get them. So iCrimp is gonna be picking up a chunk. If we have that extra almost, 340 or 377,000, we won't have to be going back for money. And we can get the plant back in operation. And we are estimating that October, it could be back online. And at least somewhat functional. We are paying it a lot more for chemical right now. But the chemicals that we are using to reduce odor and meet permitting, we've actually are starting to hit that mark. And there's been a significant reduction in odor in the last month. So it's still, we'll have a couple days where it might, especially now that we're hitting this hot streak and temperatures are rising, but Bryson and his team have been down there. Casey and his team have been down there mowing and cleaning up some of it. Looks great. And he's even said that it's smelled better than it has in past summers. So
I wonder if Frank or,
I'll talk to Frank, and if I have to, I know who else I can call.
he might know what that carryover.
I doubt it.
Or Tater, maybe.
No, no.
All right.
Well, if anyone has any thoughts, I would like to
I'm gonna
verify
rack my
it.
brain and see
Yeah.
what I can
What?
I mean,
come up with.
if I was gonna do anything, just go over the last budgets and where did it come into play? And, I'm sure there's meeting minutes that'll say this is what it's for, but, no, we have it in reserve. We don't know what it's for. I'd rather have money than not have money.
I didn't think about going back to minutes. I will look at minutes.
So I
Tell
get paid to
Michelle.
Came from, remember when Keller used to show up with his form, you know?
And how much money we owe them every month?
Well, no, not that one, you know, like the increase, the rate increase, I think the change.
Okay.
And I swear it was maintenance.
It could be, and
Here, you know, for the, whatever those.
I'm pretty sure it would probably be for membrane upgrades or
Membrane, yeah.
membrane replacements. That would be my guess at that price range.
Yeah,
But the good news is, Great West believes that we can work with Veolia, out of Boise. They're gonna send a person down here to show us how to, bring those membranes back online without having to replace them. They may be at 80% life compared to what they should be, but that gives us 5 years to come up with a plan to do a full replacement on them. And we'll be back operational. Maybe I missed some there, Bryson.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. Can you please repeat?
All right, I appreciate it. We're good. No, as far as estimated plant timeline, looking at October, we got the estimates in, we're looking at electrical, Veolia, it's gonna help us out with getting, the membranes back going, and we should be active hopefully by October, November, you know, before going into winter, and, we'll continue to do upgrades through the winter and, hopefully not have to use full lagoons next year, right?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Hopefully we're not in lagoons. Lagoons in the winter is horrible.
Anything you want to add to the budget on wastewater? Anything you have to say on it?
I did not. I gave you my notes on what kind of I had analyzed and what my thoughts were. And essentially this is I'm hoping to see Bellevue continue and roll forward. You guys are doing great.
so user fees, I did reflect a 4.99 increase in user fees here. Contract labor, took that down based on hiring an apprentice and manager. Which of course, you know, then if it has to, like you said, like the mayor said, move back and forth between, depending on whatever we have going.
And I have discussed contract fees with both of our contractors, and they don't see increases coming this year. They're changing some of their operating procedures, but they'll still provide the services that they are at the current rates. Any changes will be made within their own budgets and how they operate.
I did put a little bigger contingency in the wastewater here. Does it have room for it? I did leave merchant fees in because I'm not sure when we get to Cassell, whether we're gonna have to have another vendor that will have merchant fees other than Intuit, so I didn't want to get caught short there. So it is in both water and wastewater, just so you know. Tried to segregate out repairs and maintenance into better categories, i.e. autos, equipment, general. And then a general for water, there's a repair and maintenance water, repair and maintenance wastewater. We took a big hit this year in paying some past electrical bills from the previous year. So that's why it's so high for this fiscal year when you look at that. On page 2 there.
We have a question for you.
Sure.
People pay their water and sewer bills by credit card. We charge them for the fees. Now, we just changed it at Mahoney's, we're charging people for credit card fees, because we're 95% credit cards. Now, let's say it's 90% credit card, fees for credit card must be thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars.
Yes, that is something I've been working on since I started, but, the city is currently paying 99.9% of those fees. I'm working toward changing that.
Okay.
And,
That can be saved. a lot.
It's come down to
yeah,
our ability to access everything we can in QuickBooks. And so once we get off QuickBooks and we go to Cassell and we can actually divide that line item and say, the merchant fees will be going to the
Sure.
consumers.
Yeah.
Okay, no,
Yeah.
that's our intent. Me and Shelley have been talking about it.
yeah, I've been working on it since the
You'd
beginning.
be surprised how much money it is.
For each transaction, when you're talking, 3.5% per transaction, and we're doing 1,100 transactions a month, it adds up quick.
Yeah.
When they do pay on our website, the customer is paying the fee. So that's why I pushed it a couple months ago on our little write-up on the bill. That's through Payport Idaho, and those fees are not charged to us as a city. So we do have the ability to process other payments through the Payport, which I'm working with the girls right now. When we get a big payment on a building permit or something and they want to use a card, we're gonna process it not through Intuit QuickBooks.
Good.
No,
Good.
we're not going there. So. Cassell's gonna fix all that stuff.
So it only took 15 years.
I know,
When we
I'm
lost
still
it,
waiting.
Okay, steps are being made,
I
steps
know.
are
Oh,
being
you're doing
made.
great, Shelley. I know you're gonna get there and I can't wait.
So, I mean, you can see where I've listed a lot of averages, when in figuring out utilities and stuff like that, so. Any questions on wastewater? Well, I guess capital, we should talk about capital a little bit. So down in construction and improvement, that's where I put that 377 going back out, so, plus a little bit more to balance the budget for construction and improvement. There was previously budgeted in plant upgrades. I didn't know, I thought construction improvement was a little more general than plant upgrades, unless we want to rename that or something. Tell me how you want it reflected.
I'm gonna say it's the same, construction and improvement, Western improvement and upgrade, nothing to me, so I think it's just a line item that was put in there because we were looking at things like a de-water or a screw press, whatever you wanna call it, and that was gonna be a significant thing through Keller, the way they wanted to re-engineer it. The initial cost, we were looking at it was gonna be maybe $150,000. It'd pay for itself in 3 years due to the lack of, we didn't have to transport water up to Ohio Gulch. But Keller engineered it. It came out to be about $2.5 million. And we held back on it, and that's when the plant failed. So I think plant upgrades can go into construction and improvement because improvement and upgrades are the same in my book. And that allows us flexibility on what we're using it. And I'm actually, with our budget there, with what we should be seeing from iCrimp, it's not gonna be the complete rebuild that I would have liked to done with the plant, but also we're not taking on $20 million worth of extra costs. I think we can get the plant back up and operational in a better state than it was a year ago, March, here by, I gotta say April 1st, so.
Last page, capital improvement fund. I have broken it down into what I budgeted for the coming year. This is pretty aggressive. But I think with what we've got going on in energy and the new things that are gonna be happening, I'm hopeful that we can make this work. Does anyone have any thoughts or concerns?
No, but great job.
This reflects the Carl Malone report.
Yeah. I do just wanna loop back to the admin page.
Okay.
So we are using a little bit of carryover this year.
Yes,
It was
I did.
unavoidable.
Yeah, I plugged in 127, 3.
Okay.
Stepping back to the resort communities. So 175 owed for the remaining 7 months of this year, and then 500 for the next 12 months. So we only need $500 in the.
So
budget.
not per month,
Not
it's
per
just for
month, it's
12
just-
months,
that's-
$500.
Their thing said per month on their invoice.
But
Okay, good.
Yeah.
500.
I
Okay.
was shocked when you said that number. I was like, no, we read that email.
I thought the same thing.
Going
Yeah,
once?
Yes.
we must be,
That's good news.
Okay, okay.
good.
Should that just be an admin thing?
basically, I would put it in memberships.
Well, Shelley, I would like to thank you for, I mean, this is epic in producing your first budget. I mean, really epic. Great, great, great work.
The worst, to the best of the best, and you're the best.
You just made my day.
No,
Trust me,
Yeah.
you guys were winners way back when.
I know Christina, I know Diane has had comment on it. I haven't been that involved with it. You've done it all on your own for the most part. I appreciate the departments understanding where we're at, but this is actually the first budget, an actual budget that Bellevue's put together that meets our income and our expenses. So
I worked hard to get it there.
I know.
Yeah.
Worked really hard.
Shows.
And if you had nothing, well, I'm not gonna say a name, but the last person was left in a state of flux, per se, and didn't leave you to anything. And you're on your own.
In 20 years, if not more, you bet, I mean, Sean's been through
and it's rough and it's hard.
not delightful, but it's the best so far.
At least we're dealing with real numbers and not imaginary numbers.
Yeah,
And we'll improve that. We can say, this is our budget, instead of grasping at things that we don't have or aren't sure if it's gonna come in. We have an actual budget.
Well, I can tell you next year ought to be really good because I will have been through it all. And,
yeah.
I mean, this year I had to work with what I came into
Yeah.
and not even knowing what it was. And
Got some of
so,
these numbers.
yes, so I hope that this does us well moving forward.
You're way to go.
And I think it sets the tone for us to collectively work together to get things in compliance.
Yeah.
You know.
Really work on our fees, work on the things that we've talked about so that we can make sure those incomes come true.
That's what I say, that now we're gonna work in the fees,
Mhm.
you know, and we've done this for so long, and we do good for a couple months, and we fall, we screw up. And we improve it, and they don't, you know, it's been a mismatch of things. And ability to correct it, out of hands,
Mhm.
you know.
Well, and we have one meeting left to finalize this. So I'll have it all put together. So if there's anything that you need to talk to me about, it needs to happen before the next meeting in terms of, so that I can present a final, you approve, and then, because I've got to get it published.
Yeah.
Like within the 3 days following that meeting.
Okay.
It has to go to the paper.
Okay.
So we need to be final on July 22nd.
Yep.
No extra meetings.
Seems doable.
No extra
I
meetings?
would love not to do extra meetings. I think we're right
We're
there. I
almost
think
there.
you have enough walking directions to wrap everything up.
Yeah,
I think we did 4 nights in a row of extra meetings back
Oh, you did?
4 years ago,
No.
yeah.
You know,
Wow.
at least, if not more.
I remember distinctly
It's like,
4 meetings in
Was
4
it
days.
working there then, or was it,
I was here,
well, now I'm talking about the person in charge.
Yes,
oh, Dee. Mm,
No,
no, she wasn't.
no,
I think it was Kathy.
we had special meetings.
It was
with
Kathy.
me, too.
Yeah. All right.
you're on that.
I'm good for the meeting.
Second,
All in favor?
yeah.
Thank you, everyone. I appreciate your time and, no, I think you've done a great job. of getting it right.
That was awesome.